it's not just that physical symptom, it's also that mental, emotional, and spiritual. So sometimes something just doesn't feel right to you. So if we can help to have a hybrid of supporting the person's body who's getting HRT or taking a birth control pill or whatever it may be that they're allotting to do based on their care plan, then we're able to give that person a little bit more autonomy in their health. We're empowering them to maintain their center, and ultimately they're better doctors of themselves to know what they're needing or how to modify their health plan for the future.
Hey everybody, I'm Rachel Weiss.
And I'm Jenn Lori.
And welcome to another episode of Everybody Talks, the podcast where we explore the wide world of wellness. Sometimes we talk to experts, sometimes we just talk to each other, but we're always talking to you. If you want to watch this episode, go to our YouTube channel at Everybody Talks Podcast.
Every week, we discuss topics from nutrition and exercise to mindfulness and self-care. And today we are talking to a nationally recognized doctor of acupuncture.
Acupuncture. So listen up.
Our guest today is a nationally recognized expert in acupuncture and integrative medicine, currently practicing at the academic clinic of the Virginia University of Integrative Medicine. A former Division I athlete turned healer, she blends evidence-based Chinese medicine with a passion for helping people navigate life's most complex transitions from chronic illness to fertility and perimenopause.
Her passion for athletics and physical fitness continued to serve her as she worked as the resident acupuncturist at the prominent El Gancho Racket and Fitness Club in Santa Fe, New Mexico, before she joined Princess Cruise Lines to travel the world for 5 years, something we all should do. During this time, she became extremely proficient at teaching acupuncture to guests and jumpstarting their healing while they were on vacation. As a teacher, holistic coach, and acupuncture business coach, she also offers seminars and courses to her students and colleagues across the country. Please welcome our guest today, Dr. Haley Parker. Haley, welcome to Everybody Talks. Happy to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Let's just start at the beginning, like a little bit of your story and what drew you to acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and if there anything in your life actually that set you on that path.
It did, because I did not ever think I was going to become an acupuncturist, let alone be in academia at the moment. So the path really chose me. And when people ask me, like, it's always in retrospect that I see how the bricks were laid for me to follow the path. I was an athlete and I was a diver. So springboard, kind of acrobatic, and like as much as and as pretty as it looks when you do it right, you crash a lot to get to that point. And the training can be quite extensive. And as most athletes, like, you don't know how great it is to be healthy and how at peak performance you are until you start breaking down. And as I'm breaking down, listening to my coaches more than I was listening to my body, I didn't really get effects from just the normal regimen of health and healing. And I have some scoliosis and some joints that are just a little bit more squawky than others. And so after I graduated from college and I was out working with my grandfather doing a lot of manual labor, those squawks became so loud I couldn't ignore them anymore. And my grandfather, I think, really tired of hearing me complain and squawk myself, took me to his acupuncturist. And I was really reluctant, like you are, Lori, I was really reluctant to try acupuncture. And here I was, like, desperate and just wanting something to give me like just momentary relief so I could sleep, so I could just not be so moody. And it worked, and it took away so much of my pain levels that I knew I was on the right track. It opened my eyes. As a young female, I also had some pretty remarkable changes in like my hormone cycles, like not to have like this once a month curse come upon me. Like it was actually quite a smooth transition, mental, emotional, like ease, and I slept better. And so I was like sitting there thinking, wow, what just happened? And then the more I studied it, the more I really had a passion for learning and then helping people like I was helped, because no one ever thought to tell me, try this. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You get better. And so ultimately I went to school for acupuncture. It's a 4-year medical program. So I did a little life pivot and went down that track. Ultimately then, like you heard in my bio, I wanted to still explore and travel the world, but that was really educational for me as well, because people all across the world have pain and symptoms, and your body doesn't speak English, Chinese, French, Japanese. It speaks symptom. And so even if there was a language barrier, there was an area, like a person that thought they were the only one suffering with something, as you would come in to the treatment room and you would take a a pulse on the body, you could help that person get back on their feet, help their body re-regulate, and ultimately enjoy, well, their vacation where I was working, but really open their eyes. And so that mission became my life purpose, to then start to work with students who are wanting to help people, but they just might not know how. So, how can I teach them how to be better practitioners, better ambassadors to the medicine? Ultimately, we come to school and we're helping ourselves, like we're healing in the process of becoming these light workers, as we say in our realm. But ultimately, it became that passion of coming to academia, working in advocacy, practicing the medicine, but also promoting the medicine.
I love that. I
I
love
know.
that you know, had that great experience yourself and you saw the benefits and wanted to actually
Learn
pursue
how to
it, you
do it.
know?
Learn how to
Um,
do it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be pretty detrimental if you didn't do it well, but, I'll never forget the first time my dad got a treatment from me, because I gave my dad, like, this, like, 15-page persuasive essay why he needs to continue to support me in school, right? Like, I
Oh,
figured.
that's funny.
And
Good for
my
you.
dad was like, the market had crashed back then, so it was like he saw I was trying to get a job, and so he's like, "Okay, well, we can, you can go to acupuncture school. There's total merit in it, scientifically backed." Like, he was supportive of me. But I remember the first time I gave him a treatment, he was kind of holding his breath, and it wasn't because he was scared of needles. It was like, "Oh my God, I hope she's good at this and she can pay her bills one day." And so anyway, so he totally was like, "Wow, this actually
Yeah.
works." And so ultimately, there's always that moment. There's that tipping point of, is this going to be the answer? How is this going to hurt? Is this? And they're like, "Oh, this this actually just is normal. It's natural. It brings me back into a state of balance," which most people forget what that feels like.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to ask you about. And, I mentioned before we got on that I didn't have great experiences with acupuncture myself. I am afraid of needles, but it wasn't even so much that. It was like I was really uncomfortable. And do you think that's because I was, you know, closed off to it or holding my breath or whatever it was? Like she would put a needle like in between my toes and I would freak out. And it was so, or am I so blocked and there's like, stuff going on in my body that it was painful.
Acupuncture isn't really for everyone. Some people have really bad experiences and aversions, but I find that a lot of the time you have to find a practitioner that works with you. And part of a practitioner's skill and art is being able to soothe their patients so they drop that guard and they're much more receptive. Guaranteed, there are certain points that are just ouchy, and usually the ones on the feet are pretty sensitive. So ultimately, we have modern technology like the guide tube that protects the shaft of the needle as it's being inserted into the body, but it also helps disperse the free ends of the nerves at the surface of the skin. So pushing that guide tube down a little bit further, a little bit harder, helps distract you. Or you could do a little massage to the point to help desensitize that area. I often find in an energetic medicine, it's the energetic exchange, it's the prep work of walking you through the treatment, know what to anticipate, know what to expect. You're really just going to feel a little tap, like if you take your fingernail and you tap. It maybe is as extreme as like a little tiny sting or bite, but it's so fleeting, and the benefits outweigh that if you just knew what to expect, it might take away that fear. I also find with some of my patients, especially because I work with fertility and hormone cycles, if you are under like a surge of your hormones, that can affect the sensation of the needle. Also, if we're highly caffeinated, like so many of my patients in the DC area are tired and wired. And so some days they come in rushing in from a meeting, just getting out of traffic. They're freaking caffeinated beyond belief by 3 o'clock. And then, like, they're laying on the table so tense and tight that it is a lot of prep work for them to be able to soothe and settle, and then me be able to put the needles in without them feeling every single sensation. So there are many variables, but at the same time, I would say as a practitioner, it's on us to make the experience enjoyable. Modern, Western medical, they're there for the results. They want to get the strep throat to go away. They want to make sure the internal bleeding stops. They are all about the result. With our type of medicine, it's a holistic medicine. We want you to enjoy the experience because really we're partners in your healthcare of making you find your balance point so that you can take over from there when you leave the office, because we're with you an hour a day and you got 23 more hours to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I had the opposite
Yeah,
experience.
you love it.
I had a migraine headache that lasted for 9 weeks for a specific because of something that was going on in my life, but I was so desperate. like that I had an amazing experience with acupuncture that really helped heal it and took the headache away. Like I remember it so specifically.
I'm so glad to hear
I
that.
loved it. Yeah, I really
I w
loved it.
I love people's conversion moments. I call those
I know.
conversion moments when you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh,
You're
I
like
never knew this."
desperate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, and so this is something that's really neat, and I love to see students' eyes light up when they realize they have this power through their tool of acupuncture, to help somebody, and it's because, we believe in the medicine. There's 5,000 plus years of proof that it works or it wouldn't still be around. Plus, we have scientific evidence now with modern, technology and the scientific model. So there's so much out there that proves this works. But then when you see somebody who's in such crippled pain leave feeling better with a smile on their face, even tears in their eyes because they didn't know that they could ever go without pain, it is the most rewarding feeling. And when you see students then know that they have that ability, and it's such a powerful reverberation of energy, and ultimately that keeps you going through all the emails in the inbox, through all the days you don't wanna get up early, because it really does show that, like, you are here helping others, and, being able to teach people that they don't have to suffer for the rest of their days, whether it's from migraines or just, the menopause, like,
Yeah.
ups
Yeah.
and downs, or, car accidents that people feel like they used to be able to bend down, now they can't. Whatever their quality of life is that has dissipated, we can bring back parts of that.
Do you feel that like most anything can be cured by
So we have to be
doing
careful with our
acupuncture?
terminology of
Yeah, you
cure.
Yeah.
can't
The
say
body
cure.
Sure.
does the body does the healing. The power that made the
Yeah.
body heals the body. But with natural therapies, especially with acupuncture and everything under that umbrella of East Asian medicine, we initiate the body's natural ability to heal itself. And so when we're bringing the body into that window of homeostasis, where, it's that therapeutic window where the nervous system's recalibrated and you're out of the stress response, the body is able to operate. Everything starts tracking, the gears start clicking back together, hormones re-regulate, the oxygenation goes into the cells, the nervous system is promoting itself. So with that, the the answer of your question is, I've seen a lot of things be helped, even if it's not the thing and it needs to be co-managed with another medical provider. Acupuncture helps the body understand what we're trying to do by bringing the body back into that therapeutic window. So people do feel cured. Their testimonials say that they've been cured. As a medical provider, I have to remind them that I'm just a human being who learned an art of acupuncture, and I am helping your body find its reset point. And with that, your body's done the great work. And that lifestyle that you're also helping, right? Because if I have a patient who's not drinking water, there's only so much that I can do to hydrate them, right? So it,
Yeah.
it is really a team practice of getting you back on track.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think lifestyle has a lot to do with it. Their diet and their, exercise and all of those things to keep once they are in that homeostasis or feeling good and balanced, like to keep that up. Is there like a protocol or anything that you give to patients after they've gone through acupuncture sessions?
Sure. So when we work with our patient, the initial treatment, they come in and we have a consultation. We go through their main concerns of what brought them in. We do a review of symptoms and their systems of, like, any other, like, flags that we may see in their medical history. We really start to have a conversation of, like, where they're at in their mind, their body, their spirit. Like, if anything else is coming into their life, because you're a holistic person. You're not just a physical symptom. So you have all of these other areas, these bubbles in your wheel. Um, with that, treating the main concerns or the acute issues are often the first line of our treatment plan. And then as those symptoms are dying down, we go into more of a reinforcement of making sure that the body is holding these treatments, but we gradually move into a maintenance of where we're preventing them. And with that, we often do give advice, home recommendations. I often refer out to other medical colleagues, whether it's chiropractors or massage. I maybe send them to a nutritionist, depending on the patient case, for how they can better figure out the pieces to their puzzle. I often see as well that when a patient maybe adds in acupuncture to their already existing health regimen, things just start working again. For instance, they can start training and their muscles aren't tensing up, so they can stay with their yoga and their exercise and their walking and you know, their routine. And sometimes I think that gets discouraging to people that everything's going great, and then there's just a blip. And who knows where that blip comes from? But the blip, we need it like a mathematical equation. We sometimes have to add something in so that we can get to the other side of that blip.
Hmm. I would think too that a lot of patients that come to see you, they're obviously open to Eastern medicine and they probably already have a pretty good routine as far as like self care. If they're open to doing acupuncture, I kind of feel like that goes hand in hand. It's like they're doing yoga and they're eating well and they're doing acupuncture. Do you find that like they have healthy habits already?
We do have that crew that comes in, absolutely. Or to your point earlier, we have the person that's looking for a miracle because they've tried
Yeah.
Right.
everything else and like they're now desperate enough to get a needle. So,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know what? That we everything is under that umbrella. Like if you're a human being, your body operates under the laws of science, biology, physics, and chemistry. And so because of that, when we put this little teeny pin in the body, it's going to shift those systems in the body to help stimulate that change. And oftentimes people who are already practicing, say a meditative practice, an exercise regimen, or they have their why, like they are such driven people in their career, they want to fine tune themselves and be high performance people, they're going to look for any advantage that they have. Also, the health conscious people, they see how this just goes along with their philosophy, so they're going to add it in as what's worse than a little extra boost in peace, right? So ultimately we support the person that comes in there on the table at that moment, whether it's an elderly patient who's just looking to be able to knit and use her thumbs, or it's the person that wants to throw a football all the way down the football field and win their high school championship. So we can cover it all.
All right. We're going to jump into
Zeroing in now.
perimenopause and menopause. You touched on it a tiny bit. A lot of our audience always asks questions. We've had nutritionists, doctors, scientists, everyone talking about perimenopause, menopause. How can they ease the symptoms? How, can Chinese medicine, acupuncture, or even, I guess, Chinese herbs, you hear a lot about these adaptogens and things like that. Can they delay or like ease that transition into perimenopause and menopause, I guess?
Absolutely. The really that going back to that visual of that therapeutic window, if you're excess, we bring you back down, and if you're deficient, we bring you back up. And so then things start tracking in that window. So whether it's the acupuncture needles or it's an herbal formula that helps support this process, they're kind of like the bumpers on the bowling lane, or like the buffers to just give your body a little bit clearer picture of where we're trying to hone you in. Ultimately the body knows what it's doing. It just needs a little bit of support because we live in such a world that we get thrown off of our natural rhythms. We really do not live based on nature anymore. We have our clocks that tell us when to wake up, and we have our blue screens late into the night, and our food sources are usually we can have access to food sources all year long, not just seasonally. So there are many different things that are subtly throwing off our circadian rhythms. And so how can we bring the body back into these windows to where the body remembers, oh, yeah, I know how to do that.
But what about for women who, I mean, we're losing estrogen, right? As we age, we're losing estrogen. Like, what does it look like hormonally when you're doing acupuncture? You're treating someone with herbs. Their bodies aren't going to start producing estrogen, right? I mean,
So that's correct. In Chinese medicine, we say that as we get older, we trade our Jing for wisdom, and our Jing is like our source. So women, we tend to dry out, right? Like we get dry skin, hair, nails, like our mucous membranes, everything. We even our personalities dry out sometimes. So anyhow, with herbal formulas, we are giving herbal formulas that help support the hormone systems. They do have subtle estrogens or progesterones. I often, in this modern day and age, am co-treating with other endocrinologists. They might be on HRT, they might be taking progesterone creams or something like that. In addition, again, each person is different. With the acupuncture, we are stimulating the body's response to give a little more of a surge of estrogen based on how the points create a neurological response through proprioception. As far as, again, each person's a bit different. So, does a patient need the acupuncture intervention, the herbal intervention, a hybrid of both? Really depends on the case in front of us, what their age is, what their stage is, where they are in their change of life. So, ultimately, the tools we use as East Asian medical practitioners depend on the patient's presentation, but herbal formulas help support the body's natural rhythms. When you are talking of the hormone cycle, we like this dance of like the estrogen going like this and the progesterone going like this, and they usually go into these windows, right? And whether the window is like this, where they then have the menses, or windows like this, where it would be their ovulation time and conception, as they go into perimenopause, it starts going like this. So, as it starts to peter out. And so ultimately, if we can help to give the body a little bit more of a curve and wave like this, where it starts to die out and it end up going more flat, your body still has low levels of estrogen, progesterone. You still do go through cycles, even if you're not, producing a menses at that later stage in life. So, ultimately, patients are not necessarily concerned about their menses stopping. They're more concerned about the side effects of that change of life, and that change of life is temporary. So if we can help to stabilize that out, support the body's process through that, and then ultimately, as we've helped to support those rippling waters through that next stage of life, the body then starts to adapt to that therapeutic window again.
Okay. So would you say, like someone on HRT, it would be a good idea for them to have acupuncture to kind of stimulate those receptors that are taking in the estrogen?
I Absolutely. So I
Yeah.
believe every patient, when you're working with natural therapies, you're doing so much for yourself to just give your body that support. We're supporting the body. So then any other stimuli that you're giving the body makes sense to the body, as well as you might then be able to slough off some of those excesses or the residues that your body doesn't need because you are prescribed, 6 milligrams and you only needed like 5.2. And so it helps the body to really like be specified for what it is wanting rather than just a generic prescription. Um, and oftentimes, when you have something synthetic that's coming into your world, there's a side effect, right? Because you're destabilizing that window. And so if you can give your body that ability to discern what it needs and doesn't need, then you're able to better regulate your own window. Um, I believe this as far as I touched on it earlier. It's not just that physical symptom; it's also that mental, emotional, and spiritual. So sometimes something just doesn't feel right to you. So if we can help to have a hybrid of supporting the person's body who's getting HRT or taking a birth control pill or whatever it may be that they're allotting to do based on their care plan, then we're able to give that person a little bit more autonomy in their health. We're empowering them to maintain their center, and ultimately they're better doctors of themselves to know what they're needing or how to modify their health plan for the future.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That totally does. What about other, I remember when I had gone, there are a lot of herbs and things that help with some of those symptoms, like hot flashes and brain fog and other like herbal remedies.
Like black cohosh, that
Black
kind of thing.
cohosh,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. Um, are those best used in conjunction, I would say, with acupuncture, or they kind of work on their own too, right?
They work on their own too. Absolutely. As far as I like both, I always will tell my patients that, if I'm stimulating, like say I'm putting the circuit together with like the needles, right? Metal's conducting. And so then I'm like, I put this into your system, your brain's connecting into your body, it's creating the circuit. But then where are the building blocks? We need the electricity to run through run through the wires. We need the plumbing. We need water to run through the piping. So, giving the body resources and the herbs that are going to help support the hormones as we're stimulating those points that are helping to balance the estrogen, progesterone, even the testosterone, and some of those other low level hormones that we still have floating around in our bloodstream. It allows the body to then take the resources that it needs to be able to build back up those levels back into that balance point.
And have you seen patients that have come to you with these perimenopause or menopause symptoms, like Lori just mentioned, like the hot flashes and the brain
The
fog,
run of
which
the mill ones,
yeah,
The
but
run of
yeah.
the mill, the run of the mill.
But there's I mean, there's hundreds of symptoms
there's
that
so
people
many
have.
symptoms.
Um,
Tons of them. And sometimes they're insidious. Like I
yes.
have several patients who come in with shoulder pain because their
Oh,
joints just start
that's
really
that's
hurting.
this right here.
And it's like it's one of those things where you're like, you're not even really connecting the dots that like, oh, I'm at that stage. This could be a prequel to then this like perimenopause, menopause phase. And we hope too that the symptoms are just like that low level, like catching your attention. But a lot of my patients, the symptoms vary based on that person and how to ultimately treat their concerns, say shoulders, say, the hot flashes, but also why is that happening? And that's typically that underlying root of the condition, which is balancing their hormones. Or in Chinese medicine and East Asian medicine in general, we're helping with balancing out their organ systems in the philosophical framework of how Chinese medicine diagnoses and treats.
Yeah. Talk to us about that. That probably should have been my first question. Our first question to you
Yeah.
is acupuncture itself. Like, could you kind of explain what it's doing?
Like,
Like, what is
yeah.
it doing in the body?
It should have been. You're right.
That
The
should have been our first
Well, because
question.
people have a view of acupuncture,
I
and
feel
they're
like,
It's
you
a
not
know,
really.
mystical thing, right?
It's
Like it's,
yeah. It's
oh,
like you
it's
don't really
magic.
explain like
It's
what
Yeah.
it actually is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will give you my spiel. So when I treat a patient for the first time, I love it when I'm someone's first experience. And if I'm someone's first experience, I need to remind them that 5,000 years ago, when the Chinese discovered this medicine, they didn't have x-rays or microscopes to be able to identify like little cell organelles or to be able to tell you how the nervous system, worked in the brain. Ultimately, when we put this little teeny pin in the body, that's a little micro trauma. And that is breaking through the barriers of skin and cascading a change chemically, both in the brain and in the bloodstream. And ultimately, when I put this little teeny pin in the body, it's helping to promote circulation. It boosts the immune system. It helps release endorphins and neurotransmitters. It's helping to re regulate the blood chemistry or help detoxify different organ systems where the body goes into this like mass like scan of like, wait, what's going on? And it's this little teeny sterile needle that's not really creating a problem, but the body maybe goes and investigates down there and it sees that there is like a muscle that's spasmed. So then it'll help with the gate control theory of releasing the spasmed nerves and muscles and help to re-regulate proprioception to the brain of we need to rebalance this joint. Ultimately, acupuncture is stimulating that point. Say we have this grid that now we can identify over years of like mapping out trigger points and things like that. So we have these grid points and how that particular point it correlates with say a ganglion like nerve which helps to stimulate the brain, and in that same area of the brain it helps with pain control, or in that same area of the brain it helps with like liver enzymes and helps with digestive liver enzymes and digestion. So depending on how the person's presenting, we pick a point prescription, and that point prescription is like a recipe to that person. And that recipe to that person is really um it's scientific, but it's also very artistic of helping that person's brain get on the same page and ultimately get their, I say to my patients, get their brain, their body, their mind, body, and spirit all harmonized to where it's easier for all of the different activities of the body to recognize, hey, this is a priority. We really need to cool down these hot flashes. Or, hey, this is a priority. This IBS that is, you're suddenly holding all your stress in your stomach. Let's try to like untangle this so you can manage this a little bit better before it gets caught in the stomach. And there again, I spoke to you earlier about how we have to really have the patient on board with being a partner in their treatment, because a lot of time that consciousness of bringing their awareness of like, well, where is this coming from? Right? Where is this symptom coming from? If you just had an answer that it was, say, hormonal changes, it's not so fear based anymore. You're like, oh, that's normal. That's natural. And you're like, okay, well, how am I going to now get through this? Right. And then we give you the next step. So ultimately, helping the patient understand what their body's saying. As a doctor of traditional East Asian medicine, I'm sort of a translator, and I'm helping the person to understand how they can better work with their symptoms and ultimately get to the other side of them so that they can start to prevent them and maybe make some lifestyle modifications that they didn't do before. For instance, a really big one is my athletes. When they're young, they're little Gumbies and they can get away with not stretching. And then as we get older, it's like, oh, stretching becomes more and more of like a topic. And then it's like, it is an unalienable like thing that we have to do as we get older. So, these are lifestyle modifications we never really want to admit that happen, but you're a dynamic creature and changes are going to occur. Seasonal changes occur, and there's different point prescriptions that you employ during different seasons. Ultimately, if we have if we're really living by nature, that would also correlate with different foods that we would be eating through different seasons or different, say, even Qigong exercises. You could get into such nitty gritty practices of how to keep this a holistic medicine. A lot of my patients, just to keep it clean, keep it simple in a modern world, they come in at least 4 times a year, once a season. They come in once a month if they're really staying ahead of a condition. If they're actively being treated, they're coming in once a week to twice a week just to really jumpstart their body. And the program is designed based on them.
What about like less physical things? I mean, there's people go in to treat for anxiety, to help them sleep, like more. How has it affected those kinds of things?
Miraculously, if I do say so. So acupuncture is wonderful for the mind body connection. It's wonderful for the heart coherence, and it's wonderful for the brain gut balance. And a lot of the talk in the medical world these days is like gut health, right? And how there are more nerve endings in the gut than in the brain, and so many of our neurotransmitters are made in the gut, and that really affects our mental health. Our mental health. When I do someone's initial intake, people often come in for some pain related condition because that finally gets their attention. Like they can't do the things they love doing. Like they can't go to the gym and bench press anymore. So now they're coming in, right? But anyhow, if I go through their initial intake, there's usually a mental aspect as well, or there's some other factor going on because we're a kaleidoscope of different conditions that are trapped in a physical form. So anyhow, when I work on somebody, sometimes these things weren't the thing to bring them in, like disrupted sleep, hormone imbalances, whatever it may be. But as I'm tracking them for their health and improvement in, say, shoulder pain, they report better sleep. They report less stress levels. They report ease of digestion, and et cetera, et cetera. With mental emotional type conditions, whether it's depression, anxiety, ADHD, PTSD, there are many different populations have these presentations, and acupuncture has been scientifically proven to support this. And acupuncture releases tons of endorphins, the body's natural painkillers. It's awesome for releasing the neurotransmitters, helping the gut produce more efficiently and much better quality neurotransmitters, also helping to clear out the gunk that we don't need in our
Yeah,
gut. And
yeah.
so much of our body is maybe stuck with this residue that our modern diet. By the way, I always feel like as I'm just sitting here like bashing diets, I'm like, I'm no saint, okay? Like I'm talking like, but there's a level of like, are you tuning up your engine to be able to continue to live in just essentially a toxic world, right? Are you taking your supplements that are going to help support your gut health? And with that, helping the brain and the body to reconnect, helping with, say, getting you through a really tragic time. Right now, a lot of my patients are coming in and they just took their kids to college, and
Hmm.
Yeah.
it's a very devastating, like, identity crisis in a way of
Yes.
like, my children are out of the house and I miss them, but I don't want to be hovering. I don't want to text them all the time. And how can I like find my center again, and how can I ease this grieving process of my little ones are now grown-ups. And so these are the things in which you're helping to support and bring the person back to their center. As far as I touched earlier on that therapeutic window of the excess and deficiency, as far as the anxiety can come down and the depression can come up, and that's a lot with the brain and the blood chemistry.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would think too, it's like almost a side effect sometimes if you're treating something else, sort of the side benefit is it reduces their anxiety and it helps with their sleep
Right.
and things like that.
I find it's a side benefit. Again, like I said, and it's could just be the population I treat. There are several um there's certain practitioners that totally specialize in the mental health realm and work with behavioral health specialists, and they see a different population than maybe I do in a general practice. However, most every patient I work with has a main concern, and then they have subsets of concerns of what they're looking to work with. And the the phrase we always say, everything's connected, and it really is. So if someone is coming in with, say, a pain, oftentimes over as that progresses, that's affecting their sleep. If they're not able to, say, like my example patient of work out, that starts to affect their mental emotional state because they're not able to go and get have their stress relief. It starts to affect their weight. It starts to affect their hormone balance. And so it's a cascade. And if you can see that a patient is starting to do that downward spiral, how can we intervene and stop that spiral? But then also, how can we kind of give the momentum for that spiral to go clockwise in the direction they're looking to go so that they can reach their health goals? A lot of people ask me, like, well, what is health? And it's the definition's your definition. But I gave the example of the woman who just wants to knit. Like, she doesn't need to throw a football. But the patient who is in high school and he's starring quarterback, like, he wants to be able to use his shoulder, right? So some other patients, like, it's performance anxiety, it's being able to focus and study for their MCAT. It's whatever that definition of health is for you is ultimately how the practitioner steps in as a role of support for your health.
I like that saying that the definition of healthy is like what you think is healthy.
Yeah, you
When
want
you're
your
feeling
body
your
to do.
best. Yeah.
This is kind of random, but um, Lori's looking at me like, what is she going to ask me?
That's okay.
But acupressure and reflexology, where does that play in? And I just, this is kind of silly, but I have these socks that I wear that have all the pressure points
Yeah.
on them.
Yeah.
How does acupuncture kind of tap into that? And like, I have a client who swears by acupuncture. She goes religiously and has been for a very long time. And she'll say things to me that I don't really understand sometimes. And she's like, oh, my acupuncturist said that's because my liver is doing something or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. How did your acupuncturist know that your liver is not functioning right?
Right. So I'll try to tackle this one.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
it's not silly at all. Acupressure and reflexology operate under very similar theories, and the idea is that you have microcosms all over the body, and so those are little holograms of every other mapping of the body. So that's why ear acupuncture, or the points that are done just in the auricle of the ear, are so powerful because they stimulate all the rest of the nervous system, plus they stimulate points in the brain. There's also all the tissues of the ear based on how embryology like unfolds are there and be able to be accessed in the ear. And then even if you're targeting really well, you can hit the vagus nerve, which affects then the whole rest of the body. So these microcosms are mirrored and mapped all over the body. So when someone's doing reflexology on the feet, on the hand, on the head, you're helping to stimulate other aspects of the body, even digestive organs or like sexual organs, or sinuses for the allergy season. So there's a lot of validity in that. Acupressure is just taking away the puncture. So the pressure would be a manual stimuli, and so you're not necessarily getting the effects of the puncture or as strong of a stimuli to those points, but you're still getting a therapeutic effect. Certain self massage can still elicit that response. I also say to people, like when they ask, "Oh, do you do your own acupuncture?" I'm like, "Yeah, but it's so nice when someone else you can actually relax and someone does it for you because when you're in a relaxed state, you're much better at being receptive to then those changes." As far as how does it help your liver? So in ancient times, 5,000 years ago plus, when the Chinese came up with this, there's a list of correspondences, and they were so great at observation, which is very much part of our scientific model. So they observed and observed and observed how different seasons correlated with different herbs, correlated with different sounds, correlated with different movements, and most everything in nature follows a very simple law, and they saw those same laws and those same patterns in the human body. And so over time, I'm talking thousands of years over time and thousands of people observing this, they noticed how these different meridians and channels would then be elected or like kind of calm down, or they'd move the energy, and then how these different organ pairs work together, et cetera, et cetera. So it's this very complex web of everything being interconnected. And so when we then are talking about it more in modern times, um, traditional East Asian practitioners have a jargon of our language, of our liver meridian, our gallbladder meridian, and how that correlates with a yin and yang balance, or the season of the spring, or different associations such as anger or that tension. We call it liver chi stagnation. So somebody who's really like angst, and like maybe the person on the road that starts honking their horn, it's like, oh, their liver chi, So you start to see, yeah, you start to see these patterns mapped out. And so what that means, and how that's being affected in their body, that's really just the physical manifestation of this movement of energy. So there's a correspondence that we learn in school, and over time it's kind of that, like, it is a little etheric, but it's like that essence of what the liver's doing. And so when your friend is talking to you about this, she's regurgitating what her TCM, or traditionally East Asian practitioner, said to her. But there again, I really appreciate that education, because the original translation of doctor in Greek is teacher. And so you're supposed to help the person understand what their body's doing and how to take better care of yourself. So while we're learning a different language when you come to acupuncture, you are ultimately able to understand, well, why is it important? Why is it important that I take care of my liver? And that doesn't just mean cut back on alcohol or do a liver cleanse. It means, okay, let's not hold so much tension in your body, and let's learn to like do a little bit more yin and breathing, right? And how does that then ultimately affect your health? And it's ultimately in positive ways if we're bringing you out of excess into that therapeutic window.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, I want to switch gears completely. I want to talk about facial acupuncture. I feel like this has become such a trend lately. Can you explain how it works? How is it different than Botox? Because those needles I'm not afraid of.
So I'm happy to tackle that one too. We joke like there's Botox and there's no tox. And
Hmm.
so we do the no tox. Now, again, I really am a fan of hybrid models, because you can find the right percent composition for your case. And as you're younger, prevention's really important. Then as you get older, you might have some stronger interventions happening for your desired results. So with that, Botox is that's kind of now the brand name for any injectable that's creating a cosmetic effect. So say there's I don't even know all the names. This is not my line. So
Yeah, yeah,
I
like
do.
yeah.
I can
there's
help
She
you.
can help.
Dysport, there's like all the generic brands, but Botox was like the capstone
Right.
one, right? So
Right.
anyway, that essentially is killing the nerve so that you can't make a certain facial feature, and then the opposing muscle is actually helping to support smooth the skin on the surface. With acupuncture, we can stimulate similar points in certain areas of concern. And by putting the needle in, you're helping to stimulate collagen production. You're helping with circulatory flow, oxygenation of tissues. You're helping to like clear out the lymph system, and you're helping to ultimately stimulate the body's natural response. I always have to make this very clear to my patients who are coming in for facial rejuvenation acupuncture. Your face is really a thermostat of your overall health. So if your body isn't healthy, you're going to see that on the face. And so ultimately, we want to also work on your body's health. We want to work on lymphatic drainage. We want to work on hydration. We want to work on getting enough sleep at night. And we want to also help the body to like create more circulation up into the face so you look like you have that glow. But there too, plenty of my patients come in for facial rejuvenation who also go and see an esthetician for Botox or some facial cosmetic treatments, and they can be used hand in hand to help stimulate the body's natural production of collagen, and circulation to the face, prevention, as well as helping to get that desired result.
Yeah. Okay. That was my next question was, are
Yeah,
there other benefits that people don't even realize? But yeah, that makes sense.
that would make sense, right?
Um,
And
Because
I
you're
tell you
getting
what,
to do it.
we're all women on this call at this exact moment. Like,
Yeah.
it sucks. It sucks when you start to see like these little fine lines and you're like, what? I wear sunscreen? Or like, you're like, no, what are these jowls that are forming? And you're like, no, like, and it becomes like a little bit devastating that you're like, no, this is normal. It would be abnormal if you didn't have signs of aging, right? It's a matter of how can we temper it so that you can continue to feel your best. And also, how can you see those subtle signs so that you can intervene and it's not a runaway train? And I think that's where, it's humbling a bit that as we are all going to get older, but how can we age gracefully, and how can we embrace the signs and symptoms we're seeing so that we can curb those sharp edges and really be able to glide into every change of life that comes our way.
Wow.
yeah. So, so people that are doing the facial rejuvenation acupuncture, they're not necessarily seeing the same type of result that you would see if you had, doing a neuromodulator.
So instantaneously, no. So when you get the, like, say, Botox in that evil angry line right between the eyebrows, that happens pretty quickly. I'd say it takes like maybe 2 weeks for maximum results to show up. With acupuncture, you're needing to come in once a week for say 10 weeks, or you're needing
Oh,
to
okay.
Oh,
you're now we're stimulating the dermal layers, so the effects of acupuncture are much more long lasting, whereas the Botox starts to metabolize out and other nerves are starting to grow, and to replace that facial expression. So again, I say like a little bit of both. You can kind of make a bridge from both sides and be able to prevent the problem while you're still getting that beautiful complexion and desired result. Like we know in our beauty industry, we can put creams on all we want, but that cream is important in addition to the inside health and promotion of those deeper layers coming to the surface.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I
yeah.
talk to people all the time about what they're eating. What you're putting in your body is showing on the outside of your body as
And
well,
Yes.
stress. Oh my gosh,
and
stress.
stress.
Like,
Yeah.
when the things we get away with when we're younger, and we could pull all-nighters, and we can, eat junk food, and then as we get older, it's just not worth it. Not because Doritos don't taste good, but because it's like, no, like, literally see it on my face. And so, it doesn't mean it's sinful and you can't do it once in a while, but as far as just how delicate we become and how much more in tune we become, which if you really change your perspective, it's a blessing that you can start to learn what your language the language of your body and what it's saying. But ultimately, if we can start to pay attention to it, and we learn when we're stressing out and say, no, it's not worth the fine lines and wrinkles, it becomes so much more important to create that boundary.
For someone who is brand new to acupuncture, they're super skeptical, maybe a little scared. What would you say to someone to encourage them to try it? I know you earlier you said it's not for everyone, but if someone were interested but skeptical and scared.
I encourage everyone to try it because you are still a body that operates under the laws of science, and the science behind traditional East Asian medicine is so robust that why wouldn't you want the health benefits of this? It'll just make your life easier. It gets everything back on track. Even if you're just trying it out periodically from time to time. I have a patient on my schedule who's really just coming in, no main concerns. They're just curious, and then they find out it's in their back pocket because maybe down the line they do want to use it for an injury, or they do want to come in seasonally just for prevention. Um, what's the worst that can happen? You feel better, right? What's the worst that can happen? Your pain goes away. Um, you can ultimately help somebody. A lot of people will send their husbands or their wives, and they're the guinea pig, right? But there you go. There you go again. It helps someone else, and you could maybe have your conversion moment and ultimately maybe come to acupuncture school, but or you could or you could go and tell some other people. And I tell you what, like, it is really powerful when someone struggled their whole life, say with an autoimmune condition or just a really debilitating illness. Acupuncture comes into the picture. It helps them live more of a normalized life. They have better quality of life, and they go back to their community and they send so many people in to help find relief. And just think of that person's karma, and what great karma they're going to have because they've helped now hundreds of people that go on to tell hundreds of people of the benefits that acupuncture may or may not be able to provide. But what if they did? What if they did help you feel better and have a better quality of life? It's worth a try.
Yeah. You convinced me.
I know, right? I know.
Just fly on over here. I'll treat
Just
you.
won't go.
You
I'll talk
converted.
you through it. Don't you worry.
You converted me. No, this was really, really
Yeah,
great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so informational. And it's really interesting.
I'm so glad you all could take some time to talk today, and I look
No,
forward to
we
working with you
appreciate
sometime
it.
soon.
Oh, I love
We
it.
appreciate that.
Where can our listeners find you if they want to
So me
learn more?
particularly, I'm headquartered in at Virginia University of Integrative Medicine, our VUIM Clinic here in Tysons Corner, Virginia. Our school has a professional wing as well as a student wing because we're the largest school by enrollment in the United States, and so we have student practitioners who are working towards their practical hours and being able to sit for their board exams. And so we have our student clinics and our professional clinics. We also have another location up in Ridgefield, New Jersey, and one down in Duluth, Georgia. So we're right here in the Mid-Atlantic region. As far as for people who are looking for acupuncture locally in their area, please go on to the national website. You can find your state boards who would recommend acupuncturists. Also, word of mouth. When you
Yeah,
you start
it's
talking
so
about, hey, do you know
true.
a good
It's so true.
acupuncturist? You find out that all your friends are doing it, and you just
That
never
is so
knew.
true.
And so you might start hearing the same names. Where our acupuncturists are a very small community. We believe we're very, very passionately about a tradition. We really are a group of people. When you meet your acupuncturist, you become like probably friends with them. You bring them Christmas cookies and things like that.
Yeah.
So I really encourage everyone to have an acupuncturist on call, and we look forward to seeing you if you are here in our area. And if you can make a flight out here, please come on over and see us.
We definitely will.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much. This was a great conversation. We really appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Dr. Haley Parker, thank you. So you're a believer now.
I think I might be a believer. I mean, I've
It would
always
help you.
I know. I think you're right.
Oh my God.
I've always been a believer. I think it works for sure. My experience was that it was very uncomfortable.
I
me.
had an amazing, I didn't feel the needles.
Yeah, that's what people say. You're not
You
supposed
don't
to even feel
You're
it.
not supposed to feel it at all.
Yeah.
And then the person I did Reiki on me too. And that's when I saw like the purple, like I was really
really?
in it. Yeah.
When did you do this?
I did it 10 years ago. It was when I literally had a migraine for 9 weeks.
Yes. You told me. I remember you telling me
My
that.
parents were going through a divorce and I couldn't tell anyone. And I held that energy. So, and it was the beginning of stress migraines for me. That was like the beginning of it. But I was at the end of my rope. Like I was I was going to all kinds of doctors. I went to a headache doctor, went everything. And it was actually Kelly Burkhart recommended me to her acupuncturist. And it was amazing. I went pretty regularly and it really offered relief.
Wow.
Like it really offered relief. And you have that feeling, when you get out of a really good massage and your whole body and you walk out and you have
Yes. Yeah. That like Zen feeling.
Yes. That's what you have. And it lasts longer.
Really?
And you have that. You walk out and you are completely
Like just that you're like mush. You're like
yes,
totally
you
relaxed.
are completely calm. Like you feel that the edge, whatever was stressing you out, is gone.
Yeah.
Doesn't last forever,
Right.
but it helps immensely.
Huh,
it would really help with anxiety.
Yeah,
for
I
you,
bet.
I feel like because it would hit those points in you
Right.
that I wonder if she's still in practice. I look her
Yeah,
up.
I'm
She was
curious. Yeah, I would
fantastic.
definitely give it a try. I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, I realized halfway through, I was like, I assume most people know what acupuncture is.
I don't know.
but-
I'm glad you said that because I feel like there wasn't really an explanation about how sticking needles in your body in certain
Like,
points
what is it exactly
actually
doing? Yeah. And the meridians that she kind of explained, like the channels and the meridians.
that is interesting with the
The
ears.
ears.
Because there was a time when people put those beads
The
in
beads for weight loss. Yeah.
right? Is that because it hit that
Must be.
point?
That point in your brain that shuts off the food noise. I don't know.
Right. I
Could
don't
be.
know.
Anyway.
So we hope you got a little different
Something
episode,
different.
something new to learn. So thanks for listening. I'm Lori Schulweiss.
And I'm Jenn Giamo.
And this was Everybody Talks.
Talk to you next time.
Take care.
For more information about our podcast, to learn more about us, or to catch up on all of our episodes, go to our website at everybodytalkspodcast.com.
Follow us on Instagram at Shirley, at Jen Giamo, and at Everybody Talks. And if you want to watch today's episode, go to our YouTube channel at Everybody Talks Podcast.
If you want to be part of the conversation, join the Everybody Talks community and become an exclusive member of our wellness group. Check out the link in our show notes to learn more.
Don't forget, if you like what you've heard, give us a 5-star rating, write a review, and tell a friend. We're for everybody and everybody. The Everybody Talks podcast is co-created, executive produced, and hosted by us, Lori Schulweiss and Jen Giamo. Produced and edited by Station 16.
Our theme song music is written and performed by Jackie Ryle and Aaron Navisi, with additional support from our pups, Oliver, Milo, Murray, and Frankie.
Talk to you next time.